So my name is Suzanne Pugsley. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the London Regional Director of PM Forum Committee.
I need to develop a really positive and proactive attitude towards crisis management. It definitely needs to be considered as a business critical programme that will help the organisation be future ready, and not something that people cringe about or keep their fingers crossed that they'll never need. So I think talking openly about what a crisis is and what crises you could face is important, and it's positive.
You know, whatever methodology you choose, look at the issue or the action through the lens of public opinion or public standards in life. That's a pretty simple smell test for what might ultimately undermine the reputation you're trying to project or earn or maintain. And some clients think of public interest, some clients think of sensitivity, but whatever that is, that's a really good test of whether you should be thinking twice about what you're doing or what's about to happen.
And in general, there is a poor understanding of the sources of reputational risk, and I think there is often a complacency when it comes to monitoring evolving external threats and understanding their potential impact, whether that's the current risk landscape or whether it's looking at forward risks, the historical context of the sector you're operating in, the kind of business you're running, or indeed unforeseen events. Of course, the pandemic being an example there.
You've assessed the risk, you've seen it, but what do you all see as very commonly made mistakes in organisations?
For me, it's often the low awareness of the full impact of a crisis. Reputation accounts for about a quarter of business value, and within professional services firms, it can be as high as half. And it's not uncommon for that to be significantly affected in a crisis scenario. Up to a third of brand value can be lost.
You talked about what are the common sources of crises for professional services firms. I just jotted down sort of 4 or 5 areas that I know will be more likely to be a source of risk than not. And these are just a product of our times, but and reflecting as well as here at Deloitte, I think how you treat your staff right now, particularly coming out of a 2-year pandemic, and being aware of their needs and requirements from a mental health point of view, I think that's very sensitive. So any missteps there wouldn't necessarily be a crisis, but I'd definitely be a source of reputational risk and internal dissent.
I think definitely not recognising what type of crises it is, as we talked about earlier, and in any crisis session, someone's got to mention Deepwater Horizon, which was the industrial disaster that happened back in 2010, where we saw the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. There are many books and films about the disaster, particularly dissecting the crisis management of it. And a few days in, when the oil was still spilling out across the ocean and the beleaguered BP CEO was still talking about the fact that it wasn't BP's fault because they didn't own the rig, and they were talking about what legal proceedings they were going to take. And then Barack Obama, it's quite an important man, stood up and said 5 words, which was just plug the damn hole.